Welcome to the Pocket. My name is Scooter, and here for you today, I have my Week 12 reaction to the Giants' home loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 30-7. I was at the game. No, I did not stay until the end. Time is money, and if I was going to get any money back from being at that game, that's how I was going to do it. I can't believe how bad this season is going. I really can't. I mean, my whole argument, I said this earlier this year, my whole argument that we were going to go 7-10 was based on the fact that last year was our floor. And how could you not think it was? Daniel Jones tore his ACL. Andrew Thomas was out for, a good portion of the season. We had injuries all over the offensive line and at other positions. So I figured that's got to be our floor, right? That's pretty much worst case scenario. And then a few weeks ago, I thought it was rock bottom, worst case scenario. But no, it's gotten worse again. I mean, who would have thought after cutting your starting quarterback? I understand with the injury guarantee and whatnot that we felt we had to do it. And maybe it was the right decision. And maybe the fan base and ownership should have been more ready for this type of outcome and that it wasn't going to be, a fairy tale like it was last year. Out of I've been an athlete for many years, and I've played many different sports. I mean, football, wrestling, lacrosse, baseball, track and field. I've also been an admirer and fan of friends, family, and other sports teams too. But I gotta say, I think of any sports team that I've either participated in or supported, this has got to be the worst season I think I have ever witnessed out of any of those teams at any level in any sport. I mean, it just shocks me. It just baffles me at how easily things have fallen apart. Especially, it seems like it all goes back to when Andrew Thomas got injured. I mean, he must be like the team MVP, right? Because the team was playing okay when he was in, and he went out, kind of looked like the offensive line was still doing okay, but everything just domino affected after that. I mean, the team in this game, it was just every facet just dominated. I mean, you look at the team stats and it's like a total joke. I mean, total yards, 450 for the Buccaneers and 245. I believe that's actually 265. This this thing always gets it wrong by it always undershoots the passing yards of one of the teams. So they almost double us in yards per play. And would you look at this? It's 7.3 for the Bucks and 4.4 for the Giants. First downs, they had 24 and the Giants had 17, most of which I believe were in the second half. Third down efficiency was actually pretty similar. Both teams had 11 third downs. They converted 6 and we converted 5. Fourth down efficiency, we both went for it twice. Only they got one and they got it once. We allowed 4 sacks. They allowed 0. We punted 4 times and they punted twice. Penalties, we both had 4. We both lost 1 fumble, and they controlled the ball for 34 minutes, and we controlled it for 26 minutes. I mean, there's just no positive to what the Giants did. I mean, the yards per carry wasn't too bad between DeVito and Tracy, I guess. Oh my God. DeVito didn't throw an interception, eh? Takes care of the ball. Yes, he does. Neighbors had 6 receptions for 64 yards. Not a terrible day, but most of that was in the second half. For some reason, we can never get him the ball in the first half. I don't understand it. The defense, obviously, missing tackles. I mean, this whole performance by the team, and we'll get into it a little bit more later, but it just seemed like a total lack of effort. Like the team really just gave up. Didn't really feel like they had a chance to win the game. And how can you blame them? After your management gets rid of the quarterback that your team feels is the best quarterback on the roster. It's just a very frustrating situation to be in. Now, I mentioned Tommy DeVito already. I mean, I don't want to throw really any shade at him. I mean, he's kind of getting thrown into the wolves. I don't see any other third string quarterbacks getting forced into the starting job after the starter is moved on from. So it's not really his fault. The expectations on him are too high. They put him out there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to get fans in seats. And well, now the fans aren't going to show up anymore after that. Just for him, he's questionable because he left the game and then returned. I think it was a shoulder injury or something. But Brian Daboll said in his press conference that he thinks he'll be good to go on Thanksgiving. Now, some of the players after the game, some of them were in their post-game press conferences or whatever, but there was a pattern. There was a theme to what they were all saying. Malik Neighbors, what did he say? He said that the team today was soft, that they were soft. And you know what? They were soft today. Not today, Sunday. They were soft, extremely. He also was asked about his lack of usage and targets in the first half, and he said, don't ask me. Ask Coach Daves about that one. And they asked him about the struggles of the team, and he said it's not a quarterback issue. It was the same thing when we had Daniel Jones. So he's taken some shots at Brian Daboll and the coaching staff and the management with these comments. Brian Daboll actually responded to what Malik Neighbors had to say in his conference that I saw today, saying where it sounded like he actually admitted. He said he's got to do a better job of getting him the ball. Usually Daboll dances and maneuvers around these questions, but to that one specifically, he did say he had to do a better job. And he always kind of says like, "Oh, we all got to be better," but no, he admitted that one. Other guys like Dexter Lawrence and Jermaine Illuminor called out the lack of effort by the team. Of course, Brian Daboll responding to this said, "Nah, we evaluated the tape and we didn't see a lack of effort," basically implying it was a lack of technique or execution. I mean, sure, you could say it's a lack of execution, but you can fail to execute because you did not put in enough effort. And I think that is what the players are calling out, that we would make these plays if we were all giving it our 100%, which they are clearly not doing. So moving on to Brian Daboll himself. I mean, I get he's not working with much of anything. I mean, sure, we have Malik Neighbors and Tracy and the best offensive line we've had in years, but it's still not a great one. We got a rookie tight end who's out there, and we got Devin Singletary. Of course, we got Wandale. None of these guys are Pro Bowlers. I mean, Neighbors had a chance, but he missed too many games, and the offense isn't productive enough anymore to give him the stat line to be a Pro Bowler. I think he's an all-pro talent, but he's in a, I don't know, pee-wee, team that just can't elevate him or just make use of him and his all-pro talent. So my question for Daboll is, what's the difference between this year and last year, right? You were basically working with the same situation last year. I think it was even maybe worse. Maybe it took a couple weeks for them to, put the pieces together and figure out what they were capable of with the backups and get used to it. This was a little bit more of a jarring change, but I'm not very encouraged, obviously, by his ability to rally this team around DeVito, which is what we all thought he was going in there for, that the team was going to play hard for him, and they did not do that. Joe Schoen. The decisions he's made, some of them were good, right? Obviously, this year's draft class is incredible. It's basically the best draft class of any team this year. You could say part of that is because all of them are playing. If all of your rookies are playing, you didn't have a great team. But nonetheless, they are playing, and they're playing decently well for rookies, right? The Brian Burns deal, he hasn't been there every week, but when he has shown up, he has been an impact player. Pretty much if he doesn't, If the team has no sacks, obviously he's not going to have one. But if the team has a decent game, right, where they get even 1 or 2 sacks, usually he's a part of it. So he's worked out well. Trading Leonard Williams, I mean, it really looks right now like we actually desperately needed him. We needed that second defensive tackle, right? That 3 tech that he was perfectly scheme fitted for, right? His frame as a defensive tackle is he's undersized, but he's long, he's agile, and he's a good pass rusher. And pretty fair against the run, right? Because he could shoot gaps, right? He's not gonna muscle you over like Dexter Lawrence, but he's a fair run defender. And we've missed him this year. And you know what? Over in Seattle, I believe he just had a 2 sack game against the Cardinals. Xavier McKinney, someone else Joe Schoen decided not to pay. He leads the NFL in turnovers right now. He has 7 interceptions. Saquon Barkley. Did you guys watch that game? Did you watch that game against the Rams? Is that not everything you ever dreamed Saquon Barkley would be on the Giants? I can't even be mad at him. I can't even be mad at Eagles fans because look at what he left. He made the right decision clearly. Sometimes when people talk about a job, right? And the importance of loyalty, but not being too loyal. Saquon Barkley was the abused employee who was taken advantage of because the office knew they needed him, but they guilt tripped him into staying out of loyalty, ring of honor, all this stuff. He made the right call by leaving, obviously, because I've said it for years that he is just as good as Christian McCaffrey or any running back in the NFL. I don't care how many injuries he's had. Look at how athletic he is at a position like running back, where that is probably relatively the most important position to be athletic, I would say is running back, right? A well-rounded, strong, fast, explosive, quick player. He's the epitome of that. And you said, the age cliff. The age cliff, you apply that to like average running backs. When people were talking about Derrick Henry this offseason and why you shouldn't draft him in fantasy, and they were talking about age cliff, I was saying, do you know who you are talking about? This is Derrick Henry. He is not some average running back. He is a Hall of Famer. And Saquon Barkley is a Hall of Fame talent that you let walk out of the door. And you know what? You could argue and debate whether we could have still gotten Illuminor and Runyon. And yeah, it was great that we got those guys. But you know what? You signed a backup quarterback, too, for $5 million, and you didn't play him. Why didn't you sign just Tim Boyle? Why'd you sign someone if you knew you were going to roll with Daniel Jones this year? Why did you sign someone acting like there was going to be a competition, then not use him when you had other players who you could have kept on your team for years, or the next quarterback if you thought there was a chance you'd move on from Jones? Why wouldn't you have signed at least one of McKinney or Saquon and just let Drew Lock go compete somewhere and do what's best for him? They have only made that, like, all the decisions they've made outside of the draft and improving the offensive line look bad right now. And that all lands on Joe Schoen. So the preparation from Daboll doesn't look good. The moves from Schoen don't look great. But you know what? You know who this is on? I'm not putting it on either of them. I'm not putting it on Joe Schoen or Brian Daboll. I think they're good at their jobs. Despite the mistakes and the lackluster season, I still think, similar to what I said about Daniel Jones, just look at this team that they're working with. I mean, yeah, you could say Joe Schoen constructed it. Where am I going with this? I believe, I don't know this to be true, but I believe John Mara, after seeing the Giants go to the playoffs, said, let's keep Daniel Jones. Do whatever you have to do to keep Daniel Jones. And that's how you're going to stay in your job. So Joe Schoen listened to the owner, the man who hires him and writes his paycheck. He signed Daniel Jones to that extension. He worked it down as much as he could, and Daniel Jones probably knew. Daniel Jones and his agent knew that Mara wanted him back. So they got every cent that they could because they knew this might be the only contract extension you get, right? Obviously, it's your first one. You want it to be as much as possible. So what domino effect happens from forcing your GM to sign a quarterback that he may or may not believe in? Well, you can't afford your Hall of Fame talent running back. You can't afford your all pro safety. And you have to split the money elsewhere. And now you're another 2 years behind, right? Because say we tag Daniel Jones and cut him that year after whatever, right? We are behind, and we've been behind. We overachieved that playoff year, and we are still paying for it. Sure, I guess we didn't pay guys like, say we were just as bad and we still had Saquon and McKinney. I guess we have less money tied up, but just like we don't have anything. We don't have any star players. On defense, we used to have Dexter, Kayvon, McKinney, Fabio Carrick. It seems like just missing McKinney has completely changed the defense and their run defense. Losing McKinney and Leonard Williams. Who would have thought losing two of your top five defensive players has an impact? Who would have thought losing the best player on your offense is a big problem, even if it's a running back? Even though you did replace him with a wide receiver, a more relevant position in today's NFL. So who do I blame for all this? John Mara. And if you don't believe me, if you still think it's Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll's fault, this has been the case for years. Basically, ever since I started watching the Giants, they have been bad, with the exception of 2 seasons. 2 seasons where they either spent a ton of money in free agency or they got the new head coach in Brian Daboll. They made it all the way to the playoffs. They got a false sense of security. And then the next season was terrible. They can't keep it together for more than 1 year because they make an unstable product. And that's on John Mara. He's been the one common denominator who has been here for years. He needs to get out of the decision making. He needs to stop trying to be a GM thinking he's Jerry Jones. He needs to take a lesson from watching the Cowboys and say, oh, wait, that doesn't work, and step away and let Joe Schoen and Daboll do their job, the ones that they were hired to do by him. This has just been an awful year to be a Giants fan. I mean, I'm completely numb at this point to what's going on, and I am so ready for next year. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going in with any expectations. Even if Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll do come back, and I'm saying it's not their fault, I still don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about them. Yeah, I mean, these 3 years they've been dealing with either Daniel Jones, a bad roster, or a combination of both. But at some point, we're going to run out of people to point the finger at. And I'm pointing it all the way to the top, and I'm keeping it pointed there. I don't know what we're supposed to do about this. I don't know what the GM, the head coach can do about this if it's the owner who's influencing all these decisions. It's like, who else do you look at this point, right? For the rest of the season, I don't really see the Giants winning another game. I really don't. I mean, Dallas just beat the Commanders, so they're probably going to wipe us on Thanksgiving. Sure, we got the Saints in a few weeks, and the Colts are pretty inconsistent, but they've won games this year that they don't have the worst offense in the league. I mean, God, what do the Giants have this year? They have nothing. We have Malik Neighbors, and we can't even make use of him. Absolutely embarrassing. Well, I think that's going to be all I got for you guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to be trying to come out with my power rankings video. Right now, the Ravens and the Chargers are playing. I don't expect that to affect too much, so I'm going to start working on them tonight, trying to get them ready for you guys. But other than that, I'm going to get this video up so you guys can see it the day after the game. I'm starting to get on with this schedule and posting on time at the relevant times for you guys to enjoy. So if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like to support the channel. Subscribe if you aren't already. We hit 100 subscribers. Let's go. Something good happened recently. 100 subs to the pocket. If you didn't subscribe yet, you're too late to be one of the first 100, but you can be one of the first 200 or 250 or 500, whatever the next milestone is. And if you agree or disagree with anything I said, leave your thoughts in the comments. Like I said, I hope I have another video coming out to you guys tomorrow. It's going to take a while for me to prepare. Wish me luck. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.